You know, we've worked very hard for thousands of years to solve problems in a very serious way. So maybe, just maybe, it could be that we have to resort to something that is fun and enjoyable and not so serious. Like we just celebrated the holiday of Purim, this great celebration of Purim. So maybe these things in life that seem to be hard and difficult, maybe it's all meant to be light-filled and joy, like in the story of Purim. And maybe things that initially seem to be dreams are actual reality. So today we're going to talk about science fiction and what it means for the real world. You know, the funny thing about science fiction is we actually enjoy when it comes true. So we actually look forward to the time when, let's say, technological innovations, scientific discoveries, when these things are actually brought out in the real world, at least in a rudimentary way, when they're tested in laboratories, when they're discovered for the first time in the real world, we say, hey, this is what I was watching all this time in science fiction. And like when we first see our first submarine, we say, hey, I read a book about that called 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And when we follow, for instance, Star Trek, this technological innovation after innovation after innovation, when we see it just starting to come true, we say, hey, that's exciting. I actually enjoy seeing something that began as a dream, began as something fictional. I actually enjoy when it actually happens. So the interesting thing about the story of Purim is that if you look in the history books, like the world history books, they debate whether it happened at all. But that's actually the nature of Purim, is that it's something that exists beyond time and space, but it also very much happened in a specific time and place. It happened around 2,500 years ago in a place called Persia. Persia is a very hot topic these days, 2,500 years later. So we could abstract, we could think, hey, wait a minute. Are we living in the story of Purim now? Is this happening again now? And so if you look at examples of things that we view as both real and not real, that's a very good place to start. Two opposite extremes. The whole story of Purim is opposite extremes. V'nahafachu. The whole story turned over. The very gallows that Haman had created for Mordechai, he himself hung on. The whole story reversed. Complete 180. So now in our days, what would be some examples of that? So if we look to Star Trek, we can see, first of all, is it even possible to have a federation of planets? What would that even mean? To have a Starfleet where you have different planets getting together? We're on the same planet, and we don't typically get along so well, let alone other planets. So I'll tell you a very interesting story. It's something that happened to me about 25 years ago or so. So I was at this assembly, this convention for Jewish educators from all different denominations. This is in America. I don't know, I'm not familiar if they have such a thing in Israel. But in America, at least around 25 years ago, you had such a thing. You had Orthodox and you had all different denominations. And everyone has the same overarching goal, right? That's the whole, like the dream is like selling the dream. So what's the dream? Is that we want to inspire the next generation. Everyone agrees that we want to inspire the next generation. Just we have, when it comes down into the particulars, that's where you sometimes get into trouble. For instance, if we took like a 10,000 mile view, a bird's eye view of the Earth, let's say there was these two warring factions, right? And they're about to battle each other. So if you're looking from a very far distance, it can look like maybe they're all friends, maybe they're just coming to say hi. But as the closer you get, you realize, hey, wait a minute, they're opposing each other. They actually don't like each other, and they're about to start a war. So the higher you go, that's also the story of Purim, is that you're going above intellect. You're going to this something that seems random, a lottery. A lottery is going to decide when, God forbid, is the day to destroy the Jewish people. Yes, that's what Haman wanted to do. He wanted to get to a very high place above intellect. A place where you can juggle opposites. In Kabbalah, this is called the highest level of the soul, called a keter, which is crown. And the highest level of this sphera, this divine emanation, this soul power of keter, is called Resha Deloit Yada, the unknowable head. What does it mean, the unknowable head? Is that you don't know the difference. When you reach such a high place, maybe you don't know the difference between Baruch Mordechai, blessed is Mordechai, and Arur Haman, cursed is Haman. What do you mean? You have a hero, you have a villain, you have a good guy, you have a bad guy. But when you reach a high state, you're like seeing these two armies battling, about to battle against each other, but maybe they're all friends. So the first lesson that we're presenting, and this is just like we're having a talk here, is that the Federation of Planets, well, maybe it seems like they're getting along. Maybe if you're looking from even higher than those planets, from very far away, it seems like all these planets are getting along. And then once you get down closer and closer, you're like, wait a minute, they don't like each other. They're actually not getting along, and there's actually civil wars within the Federation. So in this convention of Jewish educators, so I've never seen anything like this. So there was a bearded guy, nice white hair, this very jolly, friendly guy, and he had what I can only describe as a mikvah mobile. His thing was to promote mikvah. When a woman is married, you go to the mikveh every month. At the you count after the cycle ends, then you count another 7 days. There's laws about going to the mikveh, and so he was promoting that in terms of having happy marriages, called family purity. But he was, and you think, he's talking to all different types of Jewish educators, and you think that people are going to just say, I understand where you're coming from, you're Orthodox and all of that, but, why would I listen to you, right? But he was so earnest and so pure that he was like one of the most popular people at this resource fair. And there he was. He must have driven hundreds of miles in his mikvah mobile, his van. I don't know where he went to. Apparently he went to a lot of different places. And he said he had a table there at this resource fair, at this Jewish educator conference. And he was handing out paraphernalia, just promoting for married women to go to the mikvah. And people were uncannily, oh, that's a great idea. What? It's none of this, oh, you're trying to shove your agenda down my throat, you're trying to, no. People were just wow, this guy is really cool and really, really fun. And he, he drove all this way in this, van just to talk to us. And he's just, a fun guy. And, okay, sure. What is going on there? So when I was thinking back to that, and, just I grew up watching a lot of Star Trek, and I'm thinking that maybe there's a lot of wisdom in fun things. Maybe the problem is we can be very serious, and if we're very serious and very stalwart, I'm not saying we have our belief, not to compromise our beliefs, of course, you have your set thing, and another person has their set thing. But how are we going to even talk to each other? How are we going to interact, let alone a place where all getting along, right? When you have a hero story, what do you expect at the last scene of some heroic story where the hero vanquishes the villain of the story, and he's everyone's celebrating. There's joy and laughter. Before there was darkness, there was a dire situation, and you expect, at least until the next movie, or the prelude to the next movie, or the next book, you expect that there's like peace and tranquility. You expect people to at least be happy for a few moments. But you expect all people to be happy at least for a few moments. You expect all of that civilization that was saved from some common enemy, some common foe, to all celebrate together. So on the one hand, having a villain, who wants a villain? On the other hand, if you reach the end of the story, where you see the good prevailed again, you have a situation that was dark and now it's light-filled. So it turns out that we actually enjoy seeing opposites. Just like in the story of Purim, where it went from a very dire, dark situation, very difficult situation, this decree hanging over the heads of the Jewish people, this decree of death and annihilation, God forbid, to a celebration, to the greatest celebration. So we see here also like this parallel between fiction and truth, and the blurring of the lines. Like we said, if you look at the history books of the world about the story of Purim, they'll say, I don't know, maybe Antiochus was this guy, I don't know. But, in Jewish tradition we say it's the truest, most holy thing around, most holy holiday. So then the question is, okay, let's go back to science fiction for a moment. So we're seeing a lot of these things come true. What else could come true? We have like different examples of rudimentary warp drives, and I don't know, there's all these things that they're testing now. You see headlines, I don't know scientifically how advanced these things are. I once did an article, maybe at least 15 years ago by now. I was counting technologies and scientific advances that they have there's at least a headline that says, okay, we've started the process of having this become something that's true. At that time, it was at least 15, maybe like at least 18, 19, the different things depicted in Star Trek that have started to come true. And that's enjoyable. That's something we like. We're not saying, oh, what happened to our fiction? No, we're happy with our fiction. No, we're saying, well, that's really cool. That's something that really is happening. Not everything. I mean, if you look back to the future, you have hoverboards. Not everyone's using a hoverboard. You have flying cars. Not everyone's using flying cars. So, it's getting there. So what else? What else could come true? So let's talk about that mikveh mobile man. So we're all looking for peace and tranquility. It's like the big dream that we're all at this convention together, and we all agree on that. Just like at this Jewish Educator Conference, we all agreed in inspiring the next generation of Jewish youth. The only question is how to go about that. So we all agree in the final scene that vanquish the villain, whatever that is, get to the final scene where we're all happy and rejoicing and everything is good. So maybe we need to have something that we immerse ourselves in a reality, in that type of reality. How do we get to that immersive reality? How do we get to our happy place? So for that you need a space traveler, right? What is space? Why does Star Trek, a lot of science fiction happen in space? So much so that when there's a hero that the movie is on Earth, it's like, why is he on Earth? He should be in space. Like, why is the movie set in New Mexico yet again in a desert? Like, he should be in space, like exploring the cosmos. So when you have space, you have everything's possible, everything is open. But when you think of like traveling to your happy space, that's like you close your eyes and you imagine yourself instantly somewhere. So let's close our eyes and imagine ourselves instantly at the end of the movie, right? The villain has been vanquished. There's joy and celebration. Where is that? Where is that place? So there's a very telling lesson that say the Jewish sages, that Mashiach, the redemption, these are all like heavy words. But this is like what in a Jewish context is this what's depicted in movies and books and as a time of peace and tranquility. So the redemption and the Geula, the Mashiach, that's a time of peace and tranquility. And what is it? What brings it about? It happens when the Jewish people are observing Shabbos, Sabbath, Shabbat. So what is the connection between the two? So we're going to suggest a very fun thing, is that if you look at the Hebrew term for a space machine, right? Every space traveler needs a space machine. If you're going to travel through space, starship or something like that, right? So the value of that, of a mechonat zman, sorry, I'm going to get to the mechonat zman. The mechonat makom, the space machine, the value of that is Shabbat, is Shabbos, 702. So, again, we're thinking about the peace and tranquility, the time of peace and tranquility. Well, we have that every week. That's the Shabbat. And then you also have a time traveler, where like all of science fiction is like futuristic, right? So you're traveling to a time in the future. You're imagining a time in the future where there's going to be a federation of planets, where everyone's going to get together and everyone's going to get along. All different people, all different cultures and experiences in life and upbringings, and we're all just going to be unified. So what is that? So that's Mechonat Zman, and that's equal to 613, to the number of mitzvot for the Jewish people. So how do you travel through time? That's through learning and observing the timeless Torah. And whatever level you are currently in life, not to say to do all, to take on everything, but that's like a conduit. That's like a way that we are connecting to the infinite, to connecting to God. That's taking us out of our fictional mindset into something that's limitless, something that's beyond ourselves, something that's timeless. Right? Every good hero tale is a tale that's timeless. So for that, we have to do timeless things. So again, in terms of place, to be a space traveler, you need a space machine, mechonat makom, and that's equal to 702, the value of Shabbat. To observe the Jewish Sabbath for the Jewish people. If you're Jewish, to observe the Jewish Sabbath. And then the time machine, if you want to travel through time, so pick a mitzvah. Start with a mitzvah. Because it's something that's timeless, taking you above the present day into something that's beyond space and time, but it's also included within space and time because it's brought down into actual reality, into the here and now. So, for instance, for Jewish women, that could be lighting the Sabbath candles on Friday nights. You know what the Sabbath candles stand for? They stand for Nerot Shabbos Kodesh. You know what the initial letters of Nerot Shabbat Kodesh is? That's Neshek. That's the Jewish weapon. So to give strength to all those fighting right now, so to light Shabbos candles. And what would be a good thing for a man to do? To have an immersive experience on the Sabbath. So if you're within walking distance to a men's mikvah, men can also go during the day. Women go at night after they've counted 7 clean days, after the end of their cycle, and then counting 7 clean days. You can ask a rabbi for the rules about that. But men can go in the morning if there's a men's mikvah for men. So if there's one within walking distance for men, to go on Shabbos morning, the Sabbath morning, for Jewish men. because that's all of this that's happening now is things that start off as something that's fictional, and we're cleaning the airways. We're revealing how actually this stuff is actually coming true. And those things that we all believed, we dreamed about, we imagined, they're now coming true. So we saw this initially with science and technology advances that were first depicted in science fiction, and now have since at least started the process of coming true. But you can see that as any type of dream that was deemed futuristic, for instance, set in a science fiction setting, and that has inspired millions for generations, for decades. So you could suggest maybe there's something to it. Maybe there's something to this Federation of Planets. Maybe we're at the time when we can actually enjoy this parity between fiction and nonfiction. Right? Purim is all about opposites. So what's the fiction and nonfiction of Purim? So we said, if you look at the world's history books, they'll say maybe Purim didn't exist, but we know it's the truest thing around. And so too, Mordechai and Esther, as the heroes of the story, were attempting the whole story to reveal the miracles that were then, even in those days, taking place. He was trying to help people to see the end scene of peace and tranquility and joy and celebration, the holiday of Purim. The whole story of Purim, during all the years that it took place, Mordechai, together with Esther, they were trying to bring out the fact that there was miracles happening all around. It just wasn't visible to everyone else yet. So what did Mordechai do? So you had prayers, tefillot, you had fasting, and he learned Torah. He learned Torah with 22,000 children, and he learned it publicly. And he did it intentionally. Even though it came at great risk, he did it to get people to start thinking, hey, wait a minute, this is what's going to change the situation. Prayer and Torah learning, and mitzvah observance. Doing good deeds, following the commandments of God. So in Star Trek, you have a prime directive. What's the prime directive? Something that they broke. They managed a way to break it many times. But what's the prime directive? If you have a civilization that's pre-warp, like our generation, is a pre-warp civilization, so you don't interfere with it. But as we said, we're trying to imagine that this fictional stuff is actually coming true. So where do you have warp technology, like real examples of warp technology? So in the Hasidic movement, you have the founder of the Hasidic movements, the Baal Shem Tov. Just like Mordechai and Esther in the story of Purim, people have also tried to say over the years that he was also a made-up individual, God forbid. No, he was very, very much a real holy person, a real person. So much so that he had the choice of ascending in fiery flames in a chariot to heaven, like Elijah, or to be buried. And he wanted to be buried. So he's buried in Mezabush. He wanted to fulfill the verse from dust we come, to dust we will return. So that much so he was connected to the real world, to the earth. But at the same time, he was a very fantastical type figure. And so when he went on a mission, right? If you have a starship, you want to go very fast. You want to travel at warp speed or hyperspeed. On your mission, you want to get there fast because you want to get somewhere. You want to help somebody. There's a world that needs saving right now, so you have to go as fast as possible. And so he had his wagon, and he would sometimes he would take students, and he had this wagon driver, this non-Jewish wagon driver, Alexei, and he would tell Alexei, not to be confused with Alexa, he would tell Alexei to turn around and go to sleep, to turn around, and Alexei went to sleep, and the wagon with the horses, they went themselves, traveling at super speed, at hyper speed, at warp speed, to in order to do some mitzvah mission. And so that's warp speed ahead. So this figure, the Baal Shem Tov, is someone that very much knew how to transcend levels of consciousness. It's called finding the 0 points, finding the way, like the wormhole, finding the way through that's going to get you somewhere fastest in order to elevate all of reality. So that's a good thing to think about, is that there's a lot of special stories of Hasidic masters, of the righteous tzaddikim, righteous individuals. Very, very exciting stories. And if you're interested in fantastic stories, that would be a good idea, because there's a lot of fantastic stories of righteous Torah sages, and specifically, I would suggest maybe Hasidic masters. But there's many good righteous and holy Torah individuals that have really worthwhile and exciting stories. So there's some practical advice, but again, what's the take-home message of all of this? Is that the Federation is possible. It's possible for us to all get along, for us to all have a reality where we're all celebrating together. And how do we bring that about? How do we bring about the time when there's celebration? And so first we have to know that we are all in this together, and that we have common dreams, and to bring about those dreams to reality, and to do our part, with our time machine and our space machine, to bring it into reality. So thank you very much.